Hello there and welcome to today's vlog. Thanks as always for joining me. Now I'm recording this vlog on Friday the 13th. Now don't believe what they say about Friday the 13th being bad luck and all that. I was actually born on Friday the 13th, so that stuff about Friday the 13th being bad for us is obviously untrue. And today I've got some good news to share with you. Today is being commemorated, celebrated or remembered or focused as a day of prayer for the United Kingdom and how we as a nation need prayer, how we need God to move in a new way amongst us. We've got so many issues that are of great concern, and prayer really does make a difference. And I want to thank those of you who've been praying for me and for Sue over these past weeks as we've been facing a number of health issues, and that's where the good news comes in. Now, I don't know if you remember, some years ago, Martin Lewis, not the Martin Lewis who is money saving expert, but the Martin Lewis who was, and if he still is, a newscaster, he said that he felt that there was far too much bad news in the news and not enough focus on some good news. And I totally agree with that. Well, I've got some good news to share. But in case you haven't been watching the previous few vlogs, let me just bring you a little bit of background. When we arrived back from holiday in September, Sue had a letter waiting for her, inviting her to make an appointment to go for her 3-yearly mammogram. She doesn't like going to that, but obviously it's for a point, and so she made the appointment and went along. And then she received a letter a few days later saying that something had shown up on the mammogram, and she was needed to go back for further investigation, something which could take between 2 and 4 hours. So that obviously was of concern. It's not happened before, and obviously there was something going on which had made the medical people want Sue to return for further investigation. So Sue made the appointment, and we went along. Because of COVID, I wasn't allowed to go in, so I dropped her off and went and parked somewhere. And because Sue was going to take some time with this examination, I went for a walk. In fact, I walked into Doncaster town centre, which isn't all that exciting these days, but anyway, it's just interested to walk around the streets that I used to frequent. One of the interesting things that happened was that, the initial letter inviting Sue to for the mammogram had come to our new address where we live in Hatfield in Doncaster. But when Sue got to her appointment for this second checkup, this additional checkup, they say, "Oh, do you live on 39 Townmore Avenue?" Well, that was the address we lived at when I was minister here in Doncaster over 8 years ago. So it was strange that they had both addresses, and it's a good thing that the address they used to send Sue the initial letter came to our new address. Otherwise, she may never have received the letter inviting her to an appointment. So that was something that worked out. And I walked around Doncaster for a while as Sue was having her investigation, her examination, and then I decided I'd walk back. I brought a book along to read, but I just wasn't in the mood for reading, so I walked back to the hospital, to the Doncaster Royal Infirmary, by which time I needed to go to the loo, so I went in there and used their facilities. And then as I was coming out, I was about to turn left and walk back to where the car was parked, maybe a 5 to 10 minute walk from the hospital. But I just had a feeling that I should walk to the right. So I did do along this main road, and then turned in and eventually got back to where I dropped Sue off for examination. And surprisingly, I saw Sue coming towards me. She'd obviously, her examination had finished. and she was looking a bit upset. And what transpired was that for some reason my phone had gone on to airplane mode. So Sue had been trying to contact me to ask me to come and pick her up, but because my phone was on airplane mode, I wasn't receiving the phone calls. So that thought that I had to turn right and walk round to where I dropped Sue off, I believe was a divine bit of inspiration. So we got us reunited, and that was good. Otherwise, I would have no idea that Sue had finished her appointment. So she'd had this appointment, and what they decided was that there was something they called calcification, or it might have been scarring or something, which they discovered. But they needed to compare what they could see with this scan to previous scans that she'd had when she'd had mammograms back in Leicester when we lived there. So they needed to get the previous scan results and compare them with the new results. So, we had to just wait while that happened. And then a couple of days later, or a day or two later, the doctor rang and said, surprisingly enough, that what they'd seen on the scan was also on the scan from Leicester. So they needed to think about what to do, whether a biopsy was needed or what, or whether it was just because it had also been on the previous scan, nothing had ever been said about it, whether it was okay. It's not really something of concern. So they'd scheduled a meeting of the medical team the following Wednesday to make a decision, and then they would let Sue know. So you might think when something like this occurs, obviously it was of concern to us because there's that element of uncertainty, what's going to happen. And something on our mind was the fact that Sue's mum had developed breast cancer in her older years. She hadn't died of that, but she had that. Two very close friends of ours had died of breast cancer about our age. Having said that, we have other friends who had breast cancer but made a great recovery. But there's always that in the back of your mind, isn't there? And you never quite know. I must admit, when we initially got the news, I was a little bit teary. So I can honestly say that I wasn't worried. I don't think we were worried. We were concerned. It was on our minds, but we were able to say to God, in fact, when we prayed together before Sue went back for her second examination, I said, Lord, we trust in you. We believe that you've got this situation in control, and we're praying for a good outcome. But there is that uncertainty, isn't there, about what's going to happen, and the thought that Sue might have this illness that affects so many people was not a nice one at all. And I've always said to Sue that I need to be the one who goes first, because I think she'll cope much better on her own than I would do, or I will. But we don't have that choice, do we? So we had to wait for some days, and then this Wednesday Sue got a phone call to say that the team had met, the medical team, and they decided that there was no further need for nothing further needed to be done at this point. They were quite happy, and that she can go back on the 3-year schedule for mammograms. So that was a fantastic relief, and we thank God. And we do thank you if you've been one of those who've been praying for Sue. We really, really appreciate that. Prayer makes a difference. But of course, when people have a diagnosis that is serious, it doesn't always work out in a good way, in the sense that sometimes it is life-shortening. Sometimes it does end in death. But the good news is, for the person whose faith is in Jesus, death isn't the end. Death is not the end. It is, if you like, the end of a chapter, but beginning of a new chapter. And there's that wonderful passage in John chapter 14 which I often like to read at funeral services, where Jesus is speaking to his disciples. He's told them soon he's to leave them, but he brings them words of encouragement and says, I'm going to prepare a place for you. I will come back to take you to be with me where I am. And as that, well, let me just tell you about this book I've just read. It's a book that was actually written originally in the 19th century, but there are some modern reprints. It's written by a lady called Rebecca Springer. It's called Within Heaven's Gates. She was a lady apparently sometime in the late 1800s who had a very, very serious illness. And in the depths of her illness, she had this, I don't know, it was a dream or a vision. It seemed real to her of actually going to heaven. And the book is all about her experiences of meeting loved ones, of meeting Jesus, of the wonderful life that she had while she was there. And it paints a fantastic picture. We don't exactly know what heaven's going to be like, but we know that we will be with God, and that all the bad things that we have in this life will be gone forever. There's a lovely passage in at the end of the Bible, the book of Revelation, where John himself has a vision of heaven. I heard a loud shout from the throne, saying, look, the home of God is now among his people. He will live with them, and they will be his people. God himself will be with them. He will remove all of their sorrows. There will be no more death, or sorrow, or crying, or pain, for the old world and its evils are gone forever. And I don't know about you, but I'm looking forward to that time. Not that I want my earthly life to finish, because I'm loving my life and my time with Sue and so many good things in my life. But I know that when my earthly life comes to an end, as all our lives will one day, our earthly lives will come to an end. If our faith is in Jesus, we know that we'll go to be with him in that place where there is no sorrow, tears, crying or pain. What a wonderful place. What a wonderful thing to look forward to. So again, thank you for your prayers for us. We're so appreciative of that. Thank you for listening. God bless you. May you know his strength and peace day by day.